Hey, welcome everybody. I have the pleasure of a great guest today, Greg Lingo. He is the executive producer and the writer of Last Call, which stars Jeremy Piven, Taryn Manning, Jamie Kennedy, Bruce Dern, and it's currently on Amazon Prime. I had a chance to check it out over the weekend. Very debaucherous, very funny, very cool. Definitely some laugh out louds during that film for sure. So, Greg, thanks so much for being a part of the Tom Bentey Media Podcast. Really appreciate it.
You got it. And thanks for being a part of it. And thanks for all the support.
Cool. So why don't you just tell us, how did the Last Call come to be? I know you're originally from the Philadelphia area. The film takes place in that area in Darby, PA. So how did you have the idea to write the film?
Yeah, so it started with a couple of buddies of mine that I grew up with. One was Michael Baughan, another was Billy Riley. And we were just kind of throwing stories together, really. And then those stories kind of started building and building and building. And it wasn't until I met our director, Paolo Pilati. He was from kind of an adjacent town. We were from Upper Darby. He was from West Philadelphia, but we were kind of bordering neighborhoods. So he kind of got the people and the cast. And what was interesting is he kind of saw what we wanted to do, which was that the neighborhood was another character in the movie. So it wasn't really until it got into his hands that we kind of perfected the script, and then he had connections with some producers, so he was able to get it out, and we were able to get fantastic cast, which is really everything in this film.
Oh yeah, the cast was great. I mean, what was it like working with Jeremy Piven? Bruce Dern is a legend. I mean, I love that film, Nebraska. How did you get those guys on board, and what was it like working with them?
So we were lucky. We brought along a couple of producers onto the project. Rob Simmons and DJ Dodd kind of managed the cast for the most part. I had a relationship with Jamie Kennedy. We had grown up together, and Cheri Oteri was from my hometown growing up as well. So I kind of helped go to them direct. But these guys, they kind of swung for the fences. And, it really all was, did they like the script and did they have the availability? So it wasn't until we got Bruce Dern that it really was real to me that, hey, this script works, and here's a legend, two-time Oscar nominee that wants to be a part of it. And it was a challenge. Our director did a great job. Paolo was able to manage kind of all these personalities in the room. And the other thing that he did really well was he kind of let the guys breathe. And he wasn't exactly telling Jamie or Jeremy what was funny and hey, you got to stick to the script. He really allowed them to kind of run with it and have fun with it and play with it a little bit.
Very cool. And so you're in real estate as your kind of day job, correct? And this is your first attempt at making films. Why get into the movie business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that this wasn't a story that had to be told or anything like that. It was really just, I wanted to celebrate the friendship and the bonds that we have when we're kids, and how, I had this great group of friends, like two guys that helped me with the story. I met one in second grade, one in fourth grade. And I still talk to all my grade school friends on a weekly basis. And I think that that's unique. And I didn't realize it was unique until I kind of left the neighborhood. So you'll see Mick, who our protagonist is, Jeremy Piven's character. He leaves the neighborhood and he doesn't really appreciate it until he comes back to the neighborhood and he sees kind of how important the bonds are and the friendships are and kind of the fabric of the neighborhood. And I had that realization personally. And I think that, this is, in a sense, kind of that love letter back to the hometown kind of thing.
So in the film, he's living, I guess, in Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia. And most of the film takes place in Upper Darby. Now, they're really, only 20 minutes away from each other?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably 40 blocks. But I remember that growing up. And the town in the movie isn't Upper Darby necessarily. It's really any town that's in the shadows of a big city. But for me, people that were coming from Center City were foreign aliens. Their parents were dressed in suits. We were a little bit more of a working class neighborhood. And the idea of going into the city was like a big deal. We were like, we weren't the country mice at all, but we were, literally like 40 blocks away, but it seemed almost like insurmountable to be able to achieve going to the city or having your dad work for someone in the city. And to us, it was just a bunch of guys in suits and lawyers and doctors and kind of all the people that are making it that were heading into Center City.
Yeah, I got that vibe that it was so close, but yet so far away, to quote Tom Petty.
Exactly.
And I really appreciated that. And I also appreciated when the movie moves to the Jersey Shore. I have a house in Seaside Park. I'm a huge Jersey Shore person. My first feature film was about the Jersey Shore. What does the Jersey Shore mean to you, and why did you want to incorporate that setting in the film?
Yeah, that's great. So the Jersey Shore for us was an escape. I think that the corner bar that is in the film, Callahan's, is an escape kind of for that parents' generation and also the guys that haven't left the neighborhood yet. They didn't have a shore house to get to, or they didn't have another way to escape. So they didn't drown their sorrows, but their camaraderie and their bonds were formed, and their network was formed in the local bar. We always were kind of striving, like, you always knew somebody that might know somebody that has a shore house. So the idea of getting to the shore to us was always an adventure and fun. And we used to rent shore houses as buddies. And so the idea there of these guys kind of renting a shore house, and not everybody knew exactly what they put their money into when they get there. And, maybe the one guy kind of had seen the house before and the other guys are disappointed. And that's real life. And that's what we experienced. And it was funny, it was, the shore to us was all about fun.
And what was, you have your first film under your belt. What was that process like for you? Did it meet your expectations? Did things happen on set that you never would have thought of? Did you enjoy it? Like, I know making a film, especially an independent film, can be very crazy. I know from personal experience. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I kind of went into it naively, and you don't know if you know everything, if you would actually have done it in the first place. I don't regret having done it. It was a great experience, learned a lot. The things that were most surprising to me were kind of watching the artists. Like Jeremy Piven is an all-star, and if you're watching a football game, you can kind of tell who the best guy on the field is, and that's nothing against the other actors, but he was exceptional and raised the bar. Jamie really brought comedy to this in a way that his kind of stand-up and wittiness really, I thought, brought out a lot from the other characters. And then just having a staple like Bruce Dern, Jack McGee, Zach McGowan, and what a compliment. And then to have Taryn Manning as the love interest, and also as kind of Jeremy's barometer on what was right and what was wrong. I think it was an exciting cast, but it was interesting for me to watch that, what you write isn't necessarily what gets filmed and what gets edited. And so it changed, I think, in a good way. Probably my other biggest surprise was just how much the music plays into the film. I think I naively watched movies before and didn't realize that, how integral the music was. And for us, I think there's 72 different songs in this movie they're weaved through. So we were able to get a great composer in Natchez, and John, I think, really created the mood well. He understood the neighborhood well, and then we supplemented that with 32 great songs from in a lot of ways local artists, but other striving artists that were contributing to this film. And nobody's getting rich on this. They were doing it for the love of the art, which was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, independent film is just such about the passion. It's such about just loving the story, loving the art of creating something. And I really appreciate it. And I saw that in the film. Did anything happen on set that, what was the most challenging part of making this project?
I think it was probably the budget was our biggest constraint. That, there's only so much and we've got to fit it all in. For us, we had a couple of, we had a day that we lost, the camera didn't work, that we had to redo, and, just stuff happens, and stuff happens in life as well. So I wouldn't say that was unexpected. But for me, I was really impressed with how the producers were able to get the locations that really fit well. Jeremy, there's a scene where he's knocking up at people's houses, and every one of the people that owned those houses was like, yeah, you can use my house. And they didn't want any money. They just were excited to be part of it. So we found a town in Bayonne, New Jersey, and the state of New Jersey in general that helped with tax credit to make this whole thing feasible. But Bayonne was just so welcoming. And, they're not all that different than the story of the town in this film, where, it's in the shadows of the big city, in this case, New York City.
Yeah, I mean, I totally got that from watching the film about being in the shadows, and I didn't realize you were filming in Bayonne. That's really cool. And I'm good friends with David Schoner, who's part of the NJ Film Commission, who helps get those tax incentives.
Awesome. Yeah,
So
those guys were great.
yeah, for sure. I mean, we're working on some projects now, and they've been really great. What so okay, so you make the film. There's other people that are interested in potentially producing a feature film. What's next? What was the process for Last Call? I know there's film festivals. It seemed like you went a different route, straight to distribution. By the way, we can watch this film right now on Amazon Prime and I think some other platforms. But from a business standpoint, why did you decide to forego the festival route, go straight to distributors?
Yeah, so for me, it was really a matter of time. That I think that probably would have done fine in the festival route, but we had 7 different distributors that were interested in the distribution of it, and we were really lucky to land IFC Films as our North American distributor, and our partner for foreign sales, Film Mode, out of Los Angeles. I think they kind of saw, I was kind of yielding to their advice, and they all saw no reason to delay it and wait for the festival circuit, but let's kind of go right out to the market. And I think our timing was great. We hit, maybe at the end of March Madness or whatever, but people are still in their house generally. There's not a lot of new stuff out there, and there's not a lot of comedy either. There's plenty of dread when you turn on the TV these days. And so I think the timing was good. And look, it's a lighthearted comedy. It's about a bunch of friends. It's a friendship story. It's not a story that everyone's going to relate to necessarily, but I think you would if if you're from any kind of small town in the country. It should translate pretty well.
For sure. I mean, I definitely got like an 80s comedy vibe from it. Did you
Yeah.
have some influences when writing the script that we saw on the screen?
Yeah, for sure. Again, it was important for me that the neighborhood was part of it. So when I found out we were going to be shooting in New Jersey, I brought the producers down and we went through Upper Darby to the different bars and drove them around to the neighborhood. And they kind of came back to me and said, "Hey, we think Bayonne would be perfect for this." And because part of the movie is filmed at the shore, they were able to get a shore house that we used, and that was in Rutherford. So we were able to, not have to move all over the place for we were able to not have to move all over the place for the I guess the cast and the crew. Those moves get costly when you're a small budget like us.
Is the pub, is that like a central part of the Darby experience, like almost like in Ireland, like where it's almost like the church where people congregate?
Yeah, and I wasn't poking fun at religion by having the wake inside the bar and the confessional inside the bar. But I mean that literally does happen. But but the bar was so central to all of our lives and certainly our parents' lives that that's where my dad went. That's where his buddies were. That's where his buddies' buddies were. And that was they were working for the weekend in a sense. And that weekend of kind of hanging out and hanging out in the bar, and you're kind of poking fun at each other, but there's also a love being exchanged, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally got that from the film where they're really saying some really nasty things to one another, but you got the sense that even though Jeremy Piven's character is now estranged essentially from his group of friends and his brother, there's still that deep love there, and he can't escape that. It's a part of who his character is.
Exactly. And he comes to realize that that's special after, he's been out there. And I know I can tell you for myself that going away to college, I didn't realize how unique these relationships that I had from my entire life were.
Yeah, you don't often see people anymore that really keep in touch with their hometowns or the people that they grew up with. I think that's a special trait, and it's a special character trait that a lot of people don't have in their lives anymore. And to see that on film and with your own personal life, I think it's really cool and very admirable.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And they kind of teach you to write what you know. And that's kind of what we were trying to do here. And I think Jeremy really got it. It was funny when we met Bruce Dern. When each person came on set, I introduced myself and thanked them and asked them, what brought you here? And Bruce Dern said, "Hey, well, I lived in Upper Darby for a little while. When he was going to the University of Penn, he was a track star there. he said, and I just get it. Like, I know these characters and I know the neighborhood and I feel really comfortable with it. So it was neat to see that he could see through the script, and it brought it to life for him.
That's great. Yeah, I totally picked that up by watching the film. So you got this one in the can. It's on Prime. Anywhere other channels we could watch it?
Yeah, it's if Comcast or Verizon. It's on demand. It's also iTunes, Apple TV, Xbox, among many other ways. But the easiest way for folks to find the different venues would be at www.lastcall.movie. That's IFC's website, and that has all the different ways that folks could stream it.
Very cool. And what's next? Are you going to continue in media and film? What do you think's next?
Yeah, so I'm working on another comedy. I'd like to kind of stick to that genre. If that, I feel like there's enough people that are doing the Marvel comics or the Pixar films and that kind of stuff, and they're far more talented. But I think that making people laugh is what the goal here was, and is gonna continue to be my goal with the next one.
That's great. That's great. Well, I know you're super busy, and I appreciate your time. Is there anything else you'd like to, maybe any anecdote from the set that we can leave the audience with that we wouldn't have necessarily known by watching the film?
Yeah. I think that well, it's funny that there was a point in the movie where all the guys are kind of gathered around and they're making fun of Jeremy Piven's character Mick, and Jamie Kennedy kind of stops us and says, "Hey, hold on a second. You guys mind if I just go off and kind of riff here a little bit?" And it was cool to watch. And he said, "I got to warn you guys, I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth." So it was funny to see him just kind of winging it. And at one point, there's a scene where Bruce Dern is coming out. He's wearing boxer shorts and an Irish T-shirt, half a robe kind of. And before that scene, we said to him, "Mr. Dern, would you put on this pair of gym shorts?" And he said, "Look, I don't put gym shorts on for Quentin Tarantino. I'm not going to do it for you bozos." So then we pulled back and, "Oh yeah, I get it. So would you be okay with boxer shorts?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be fine with the boxer shorts." So he was fine with boxers, but not with the gym shorts. But it's you're dealing with a lot of personalities and tons of talent. So again, I think that Paolo did a really nice job of kind of embracing that and letting them take him, through the film as much as he was directing them through it.
It seems like everybody became kind of like a little family unit for a period of time, and that's very common
Completely.
On film sets.
Great teamwork and camaraderie. It was really great. And Jack McGee was phenomenal as Jeremy's father in it. He just fit right in, and his first day on the set, you could tell that he was so excited to be there, and he got to know the cast and the crew, and the guys were just so genuine and honest, which was what we needed for this film to be pulled off.
For sure. I remember when I did my first feature film, at the end, I felt such a sense of loss because it was like this hyper experience, and then all of a sudden it's just over. And I just wanted to keep on doing it and doing it again and getting that feeling and meeting new people and creating new stories and being a part of something like that over and over again. It really becomes addicting.
Yeah, no, it does. You're right about that. And the thrill of shooting, and then you're going through the kind of mundane task of the editing, which is way longer than you would have ever imagined, that you would think. But yeah, it's thrilling. It's thrilling, and you can see why people become actors, and you can see why people get into the trade. It's just an incredible artistic production, which is really cool.
Awesome. Well, Greg, I know you're a very busy man. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Everyone, check out Last Call. It's a really funny film. And congrats and best of luck with all your future endeavors, my friend.
Thanks so much. Appreciate the help. Take care.
Take care.